Looking fabulous and serene as ever. Big butterfly woman Ariel here, going to be the subject of this particular highlight, up against Order del Saqueo once again, and of course, what is it but Wood Elves against Skaven Sisters versus Throt. This is one of the new maps. I believe this is the Sisters quest battle map to get their legendary dragon. But anyway, we've got Sisters of Thorn here, a bunch of Dryads up in Vanguard. Ariel, of course, also has Vanguard. Race to the Frozen Heart, ROR Dryads. We've got Sisters of Twilight on an Eagle, Lost Sylvan Knights, and a couple of Hagbane Tips Starfire Shafts as well. A bunch of Glade Riders over there. For Throt, he's got good old Throt himself. Gorich is here. We've also got a Brood Horror, Wolf Rats with Poison, Pit Fighters of Hell Deep, some more Wolf Rats, and a whole bunch of Chaff support. So, Ariel, I've talked a little bit about her in previous videos, but let's just quickly refresh. She is Unbreakable Vanguard deployment, just like Orion. 440 weapon strength is very solid for a caster. And she's got 40 melee attack with 50 defense. Very strong spell loadout. The Apotheosis and the Soul Stealer in particular, very good. She's got a greater Arcane Conduit, so lots of Winds of Magic. 10% ward save in a map-wide every time you cast. This is sort of the High Elves version of Shield of Safri, the Ancient's Protection. She has other few abilities that I'll show off in just a minute, but here you can see our army's getting clashed. The Dryads running in, seizing the high ground here out of the woods. Unfortunately, Sisters of Thorn, they're holding up a huge amount of units, but they, yeah, we also get a big, nasty Soul Stealer here. They're taking a lot of damage, but Ariel comes in, drops a big terror rout, and those Dryads just mop up all these Skaven slaves into their chaff units here. That Soul Stealer also pretty good value, hit quite a few of those rats as well as the rat ogres there, so that was definitely very solid. Up on this high ground, Dryads getting a little bit ransacked by that big death box. Gorich in particular, you can see, has taken quite a bit of damage, but he is dishing it out to those Dryads, absolutely. But I'm going to keep the Sisters focused on him. The Race of the Frozen Heart, just to quickly show these guys, they are Dryads with Frostbite. Gorich going to jump into the Sylvan Knights there, as they don't quite get their charge bonus, unfortunately. Howling Warp Gale to keep the Sisters locked in place, but Order del Saqueo doesn't have any ranged units to really follow up. And then Ariel's just continuing to support this mobile engagement here with her Terror. She also has really good animations and splash attacks. You can see how she kind of floats around. A little bit like Sarthrel, she has very high mass. She can get knocked over, as you guys will see potentially here. But she is quite the large woman with really good splash, as I mentioned. High weapon strength. I've kind of compared her to Big Bird a little bit in my analysis, like when I was looking through units, and we'll look at that at the end after the battle. As things are looking right now, though, Skaven, a lot of their units have been broken and terror routed already. They've got this big pocket up on the high ground, but considering the leadership also, Gorich is quite expensive. He's got Crown of Command active on himself to keep him from breaking for the time being. He's taking a lot of damage here. Starfire Shafts and Hagbane Tips just pouring in fire from the bottom of the hill there. Very cool stuff. The High Elves, I have to say, have some of the coolest looking bow attacks in the game, for sure. Just the absolute multicolored lights. High Elves, Wood Elves, of course, are well known to be just ravenous ravers, like just absolutely avid ravers, raiders probably as well, but now we get a big old another effect here. What is this? Something draining? I can't find the mouse to mouse it over. I believe that's the Warpstone armor, potentially? Yeah, from the engineer there. So getting a little bit of a nice AoE drain effect. Also got the summoned rat ogres here. Creature killer on them to give them some anti-large. But you can see how Ariel, I've been able to keep her relatively healthy. She's pretty tanky considering the amount of HP she has. She has decent melee defense. It's not amazing, but her mass and her animations, plus her HP, and also, of course, self-healing, not only with Apotheosis, but Soul Stealer also heals about 800 HP when you cast it. So she's got multiple ways to heal herself, not to mention Berry Wine, which I believe here has been used on the Sylvan Knights to keep them sustained. They have taken a lot of damage here, but Brood Horror also still tanking. Throt's still alive. You can see a lot of the Skaven forces getting chased away there, but that nasty Soul Stealer once again. Unfortunately, I don't think I actually hit any of those single entities there. Yeah, Throt looks like, I can't tell. Is that the effect? Gorich moves away. Gorich also got a pretty good amount of healing as well. But, yeah, the Sylvan Knights providing some extra terror here on top of Ariel. Ariel plus the Sylvan Knights in particular is a very good combo. Both of them cause terror, both of them are pretty expensive, but she gives you the burst healing you need to sustain these guys if they get caught out in a bad position. And they are a super powerful unit. I mean, 2,000 points, but they can definitely pay for themselves, as you guys have seen several times. Nasty shots landing from the sisters up in the air. They really haven't been challenged at all. And I would say against the High Elves, or sorry, against the Wood Elves, I'm going to make that mistake several times, no doubt. But against the Wood Elves, you definitely need some kind of anti-air, just in case the sisters come up in the air. You want to have some way of getting at them. For Skaven, I mean, having the Howling Warp Gale definitely is a good option, but this is kind of a similar issue that I'd run into. I found that you just need something more, which is why in a previous game you guys saw I brought the Warp Block Chazales, the Regiment of Renown, to try and snipe them out of the air. You could go for Rattling Guns as well. There may be some different solutions there for Skaven. But yeah, definitely showing through, and even as it is, Ariel is just ridiculously strong, not only in this matchup, in a lot of matchups. Didn't get that much damage value this time, but just the terror value, being able to terror out all this low tier chaff very quickly, allowed the Skaven slave, or sorry, the Dryads to clean up Skaven slaves along with the Blade Riders, especially here. 620 value, 794 value, 959 value, so really excellent value from the Glade Riders, and a lot of that comes because Ariel's able to get those quick terror outs. And having her in the Vanguard is just that much more insane, right? We'll go over just how crazy she is in just a moment. But yeah, Throt, decent value in melee, not the best, but Gorich also, he's pretty expensive for what you get out of him, which is why I would tend to recommend a more stripped down kit for him. But yeah, a little bit of a rough day by Oradell Scale. It should be said, we're just trying things out here, so definitely no indictment on his skills as a player. But yeah, because the High Elves can just again, made that mistake again. The Wood Elves can just go so aggressive now with Vanguard across a lot of their army. Like, you can really pull off some surprise maneuvers and kind of catch your opponent off guard. I guess the Sylvan Knights didn't end up actually paying for themselves, but the terror is probably nice as well. Anyway, let's go ahead and just do some quick comparisons here for the big lady. As mentioned before, I definitely compare Ariel to, I mean, obviously if you discount the lore of magic and the abilities she has, just in terms of base cost and stats, if I remove everything here, she's not too dissimilar from the Big Bird himself. Big Bird is more expensive baseline. He has a little bit more resistances and so on. Obviously, he can't heal himself, and that is definitely a factor here, but 1650, 60 melee attack, 40 melee defense, 440 weapon strength. Ariel, same weapon strength, a little bit better melee defense, much worse melee attack. She's slower and less HP, about 1,000. She's got, I believe, 10%, 20%? Yeah, 20% physical resistance with 15% missile, whereas Sartharel, of course, famous for his 50% missile resistance. Used to be more, but now it's just 50, 25% magic. So he definitely has higher resistances baseline. And he doesn't have Strider or Vanguard, though. So Ariel, just by her base cost, I think probably a little bit overtuned right now. I'm actually going to put some suggestions to Creative Assembly to tone her down, maybe just by increasing her cost or maybe decreasing her stats a little bit. Maybe some combination of both. I'm not really sure, but for 1,200, I mean, you do get quite a bit. And just kind of going through her abilities here, Great Arcane Conduit, obviously, you're always going to want to have that. Apotheosis and Soul Stealer are both very good. She's also got Tempest, which is just great in specific matchups. Word of Pain, also a very nice debuff to have. Father's Below is arguably the worst spell she has access to, although it is still very solid, certainly. Can do a lot of AoE damage over time. And Shield of Thorns, also a pretty decent one. That physical resistance and base weapon damage, really nice for things like Wild Riders. If you have... you know, these Blade Singers on their high weapon damage stance, then that obviously synergizes well with them. Synergizes great with Treekin. They have a lot of non-armor piercing damage. And then she's got these 3 items here. They're all pretty expensive. Berry Wine, obviously, it's only a one-time use, but 1,300 hit points for 177 gold. It's definitely well worth it. Absolutely would say the Berry Wine you should always bring. This Acorns of the Oak of Ages, it is pretty expensive for just 2 times, basically like Awakening of the Wood. It says it causes armor-piercing damage, but it's really not that much damage at the end of the day. It's very comparable to like an Overcast Awakening of the Wood, maybe even less. So generally, I would say you can leave this off, but if you have the extra gold, I guess, I mean, take it, certainly, but min-maxing on your heroes' gold cost is very important, as all elves, but in particular Wood Elves. Then this one, obviously, same thing. Dart of Doom does give minus 25% weapon strength on contact, which is pretty nice. Only 3 times charges. Doesn't do the most damage in the world. Not good against armor, but you can use it to debuff weapon strength, which is kind of nice in a very specific situation. But in general, yeah, I mean, the Vanguard synergy, now that, like, Durthu, the Ancient Tree Man, Drycha, Orion all have Vanguard, right? So, like, Orion here, that's his actual waifu, and you can take Orion generally cheaped a little bit down, like if you want to cut these AoE damage abilities. Just bring his 2 Cloak of Isha and Horn of the Wild Hunt also synergizes with a lot of good units, so you might want that as well. So like this is kind of a standard loadout. It is 4k, 4,000 points basically between your two hero choices, but that's kind of the elf way, to be honest, and given that you have some more cheaper tools like these Glade Riders with spears, you can still build out a pretty decent army with this expensive of a leadership core. But yeah, I mean, Durthu with Ariel is even more expensive, but potentially even stronger, right? Because Durthu needs healing, generally. He has 7,000 HP already, but definitely it gets stronger if you have healing for him. So, like, you could do something like only bring Manticore summons with Durthu, and then probably want to cut Wild Heart since you're not going to be taking that much advantage of it. Blessing of the Ancients, maybe you hang on to this. Lamentation of Despair is definitely very good. And again, Foe Seeker, maybe you want to take that. Whoops. Definitely Sword of Daith is worth having. So this is not an unreasonable kit, and it's not that far off from where you'd be with Orion. Got another kind of top-tier combatant, Monster Lord. Also can summon some Manticores as well, and with that Great Arcane Conduit, you will have the Winds of Magic to be able to do so, certainly. Yeah, Ariel, powerhouse, absolute powerhouse. Maybe needs a little bit of nerfs, honestly. It might be a little bit too early to say, but from my experience, she's been, and from the battles you guys have seen also, she's been a nightmare to deal with for the Skaven. Other matchups, she'll be okay. I mean, less than 5,000 HP, and she really only has 20% physical resistance. If you can catch her and pin her down with something high damage, she will take quite a bit of heat, but just her abilities to sustain herself, the fact she has so much HP plus the physical resistance, she is a large, tanky woman, so be aware of that. Thanks, guys, for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.